The singing started at exactly 12 a.m., the same way it always did, slow off, key, and coming from directly outside my front door. I wasn't supposed to open it, nobody on Pine Street ever did, but this time, when the voice reached the last verse, it stopped saying lyrics and started saying names, and the final name it whispered was mine. My name is Evan Miller, and I've lived on Pine Street for almost 6 years. It's a quiet suburban road on the edge of a small town in northern Pennsylvania, the kind of place with identical two-story houses, frozen lawns, and a sheriff's department that closes early on holidays. Christmas here is usually peaceful: string lights, inflatable Santas, pickup trucks parked crooked in snow, covered driveways. But Pine Street has a rule nobody ever writes down. If you hear the caroler at midnight on Christmas Eve, you stay inside. The first time I heard him was my first winter here. My neighbor, Tom Wilkins, casually mentioned it while we were shoveling snow. He laughed it off, said some things were better ignored. When I asked who the guy was, Tom just shook his head and went quiet. I didn't understand why until this year, because this year, the song changed. The caroler always arrived on foot, no car, no footprints leading to the street, just sudden singing, drifting through the cold air like it had always been there. That night, a heavy snowstorm had rolled in from the mountains west of town. Wind rattled the siding, power lines hummed. Somewhere down the block, a porch light flickered like it was struggling to stay awake. I stood in my dark living room, watching my breath fog up the window as the voice grew closer. The words weren't wrong, but they were sung too slowly, stretched thin, like whoever was singing didn't understand the meaning behind them. Then I noticed something else. There were no footsteps. I checked my phone, no signal. The clock above the stove blinked 1 a.m. Outside, the singing stopped directly in front of my door, and then it started again. This time, it wasn't a carol. It was a list. Margaret Collins, the voice sang softly. She lived 3 houses down, died in her sleep last Christmas morning. Robert Hayes, heart attack, December 25th, 2 years ago. Each name landed heavier than the last, sinking into my chest. My hands shook as I reached for the peephole. Against every instinct I had, I leaned forward. The man outside was tall, too tall. His coat looked decades old, dark and stiff, like it had frozen solid while he was wearing it. Snow clung to his shoulders but never melted. His face, God. His mouth was stretched wide open, like he was screaming, but no scream came out, just singing. His eyes were wide, glassy, and completely white, rimmed with frost. When he turned his head slightly, his breath rolled out in thick, cloudy bursts. Like something freshly dead, I stepped back, heart pounding. Then he said the next name. Evan Miller. The lights in my house flickered. I stumbled backward and nearly tripped over the coffee table. My pulse roared in my ears as the singing stopped. For one horrible second, everything went quiet, then I saw it. His shadow slid across my hallway wall. It wasn't outside. It was already inside my house. I ran. I bolted down the hallway toward the back door, slipping on the hardwood floor as the temperature dropped so fast my fingers went numb. The walls creaked, like the house itself was breathing. Behind me, I heard slow footsteps, deliberate, heavy, dragging something unseen. I slammed myself into the bathroom and locked the door, crouching in the tub as frost crawled across the mirror. The singing resumed, muffled now, coming from right outside the door. Last house on Pine Street. The voice hummed, last name on the list. The doorknob began to turn. I held my breath, biting down on my sleeve to keep from making a sound. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. One single notification, unknown caller. I didn't answer. The singing stopped. Suddenly, the house warmed, the frost vanished, the doorknob went still. After what felt like hours, I cracked the door open. The hallway was empty. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, police sirens echoed down Pine Street. I stepped outside into the pale gray morning and saw sheriff cruisers parked in front of my neighbor Tom's house. Paramedics wheeled out a body under a white sheet. Heart attack, Christmas morning. The sheriff took my statement but avoided my eyes. Before leaving, he paused and said something quietly. "You weren't supposed to open the door." That afternoon, I checked the local news. Buried at the bottom of the article was a sentence that froze my blood. With this death, Pine Street's Christmas Eve toll now stands at 12. That night, as I packed my bags to leave town for good, I heard it again, soft singing. Not outside, from my hallway. I don't live on Pine Street anymore. I moved 3 states away, changed my number, changed my name, but every Christmas Eve at exactly midnight, my phone lights up with a voicemail. It's the same voice, still singing, still adding names, and it hasn't finished the list yet. The bells rang behind me while I was dragging a Christmas tree across the snow, and I knew instantly I had made a mistake. They weren't hanging from branches or tied to decorations. They were moving, slow, heavy, breathing somewhere deep in the trees. My name is Caleb Turner, and last December I was broke enough to take any job that didn't ask questions. I was 26, living out of a rundown motel off Route 160 in southern Colorado, just outside a dying mountain town most people pass through without stopping. That's where I saw the handwritten sign at a gas station. Overnight security, Christmas tree lot cash paid daily. The lot sat off a narrow back road surrounded by dense pine forest, about 15 minutes from town. No houses nearby, no cell service, just trees, snow, and silence. The owner, a heavy-set man named Ron Barlow, handed me a flashlight, a thermos, and one warning. "If you hear bells after midnight," he said, not smiling, "don't follow them." "If you hear bells after midnight," he said, not smiling, "don't follow them." I laughed, thinking he meant pranksters or wildlife. Ron didn't laugh back. The first 2 nights were quiet, wind through the pines, distant traffic from the highway miles away, occasionally the creak of frozen branches shifting under snow. The lot itself was simple, rows of freshly cut trees tied with twine, a small wooden shack, and a chain link fence that felt more symbolic than useful. On the 3rd night, the temperature dropped hard. My breath came out thick and white. Snow crunched louder than it should have. That's when I noticed the drag marks. Long grooves in the snow ran from several empty tree spots toward the tree line, like something heavy had been pulled, slowly, into the woods. Then I found the posters. They were old missing person flyers nailed directly into tree trunks, yellowed paper, faded ink. Every single one had the same date, December 25th. I radioed Ron, static, tried my phone, no signal. The wind picked up, carrying a faint sound through the trees. Bells, soft at first, almost playful, the kind you'd expect on a wreath or door. I remembered Ron's warning and forced myself to stay put. I locked the shack door and watched the tree line through the dirty window. That's when I saw one of the trees move. Not sway. Move. It slid across the snow by itself, inch by inch, leaving a fresh trail behind it. My chest tightened. I stepped outside without thinking, flashlight shaking in my hand. "Hello," I called, hating how small my voice sounded. The bells rang again, closer. Between the trees, something shifted, a shape low to the ground, too wide, wrapped in shadows and branches. The bells weren't hanging, they were tied. Around something's neck, it inhaled. I ran. I sprinted back toward the shack, slipping on ice, heart slamming in my ears. Behind me, the bells erupted into frantic ringing as branches snapped and snow exploded upward. I slammed the door shut and killed the light. Something hit the side of the shack hard enough to rattle the walls. Breathing filled the space outside. Wet, uneven, patient, the roof groaned. Snow fell inside through the cracks. Then the breathing stopped. Silence. I waited, shaking, until headlights swept across the lot. Ron's truck pulled in like nothing was wrong. He stepped out, calm as ever. "You followed the bells, didn't you?" he asked. Behind him, in the trees, dozens of shapes shifted, each wrapped in branches, twine, and Christmas lights. Bells chimed softly as they moved closer. Ron looked at me and sighed. "People like fresh trees," he said. "And something has to take them home. I don't remember how I escaped. I woke up in a ditch near the highway, frostbitten and bleeding, just before dawn. The lot was gone when the police checked. No fence. No shack. No trees. Every Christmas Eve since, I hear bells outside wherever I'm staying. Apartments, motels, even once in a hospital. They never ring at midnight anymore. They ring when I'm alone, and they always sound closer than they should be.